the FAANG stocks, and this is supposed to have another A in there, it's Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, are hitting record highs. This is insane. Over half the world has asked the IOEB for a bailout. Oh, that's IMF. The International Monetary Fund managing director told a meeting of the G20 finance ministers and central bank governors, so it's central banks, Wednesday, that over 100 countries have approached the International Organization for Emergency Bailouts, the IOEB, for bailouts. This is funny, and I don't know who Tyler Durden really is. This is a pseudonym for probably a whole bunch of people, but it's funny. Despite just 10 countries so far receiving emergency funding, with many more expected to receive lifelines by the end of the month, she said the IMF will use its full toolbox and $1 trillion firepower of lending. $1 trillion. Boy, that just seems like a pittance these days, doesn't it? I mean, the U.S. is only 4% of the world's population, and we're throwing about $6 trillion at it so far in all of these different programs and things. There's going to be $6 trillion by the end of the year that we're throwing at this thing, and the IMF is only throwing $1 trillion for the rest of the world. You know, they just need to ask me. I'll be glad to loan them $100 trillion so they can go 100-fold on that. I've got, I'll keep another 5.5 quadrillion for myself. We used to. I bought a sextillion. I calculated back several years ago, and we used to send these for free. When somebody ordered from goldsilver.com, we'd send you $100 trillion as a bookmark and a free book. And then for people that were buying over a certain amount, enough to become an insider, for a while we were sending them an ounce of real money. So we'd send you $100 trillion of fiat currency and an ounce of real money, a silver Pegasus round. So that's what's going on with the IMF today and the countries around the world. The gold and silver IOUs are falling, even though it's getting very, very difficult to actually find real gold and silver. It's vanishing right now. So they're both falling. And, maybe these IOUs will fall to zero, and gold and silver, you just won't be able to get it at any price. So the market opened way up today, and European car registrations crashed the most on record in March. That is extremely deflationary. China's economy in worst downturn since the 1960s. You need to go and do an internet search on the Great Leap Forward, because the downturn in the 60s is the leftover from what happened with Mao's program right at the end of the 50s, beginning of the 60s. Chairman Mao introduced something called the Great Leap Forward. It was an economic program that was supposed to launch China's economy past that of the United States and create great prosperity for them. And what happened was somewhere between 18 and 60 million people starved to death. It is the greatest man-made famine in history. And the historians, the average that they estimate is around 30, the average estimate of all the different historians that have studied the Great Leap Forward. Then go down here, there's over 43,000 U.S. millionaires to get stimulus, averaging 1.6 million each. And all of these different government programs, whatever it says on it, it means pretty much exactly the opposite. This was the CARES stimulus bill, and instead of CARES, it means we don't give a flying, freaking, flippin' finagle about you. You can have your $1,200. We're going to give 1.6 million each to, average to 43,000 millionaires. I think this is, if you don't laugh, you got to cry. So I'd rather laugh. Brett Johnson of Santiago Capital. Does anyone out there think that the state and Fed governments are going to spend all of this money, I think he means currency, time, training to ensure social distancing, testing, and travel restrictions, and then just throw it all away when the virus goes away? I think this is brilliant. I hadn't thought about this, but Brent is right. They're not going, especially like these travel restrictions. Once they've got a digital blockchain currency, they can prevent you from buying gas anywhere outside a certain radius from your own home, or prevent you from buying an airline ticket to a place that they don't want you to travel to, prevent you from making any transactions in a restricted area. So you'd only be able to go to certain countries, certain states or cities or whatever they want to do. If you were able, like if you went to a different country that was still using cash and you were able to purchase a bunch of cash, but they can restrict that too to just a certain amount per day so that you couldn't get enough to actually go to a restricted country and be able to travel around there and stuff. So get ready for total state and federal, the federal control. That's coming through the Fed. Michael McDonough, he tweeted the China retail sales year-over-year change. And so there was always this growth. This is 10, this is 20, I believe this is percentage of sales. So there was this growth, 30%. And their GDP figures used to reflect this tremendous growth of their economy. And then this is the collapse in the first quarter. Now, the first quarter contains a lot of the spending in preparation for Chinese New Year. And, it was Wuhan that got the big lockdown, the Wuhan province, not most of the rest of China. And so a lot of the Chinese New Year did take place. It happens from mid-January through early February. And so a lot of sales and stuff for that celebration. So this collapse is basically February and March is what you're seeing here it would have gone up if the figures had included Chinese New Year and there was no coronavirus. And that reflects on their GDP. And the GDP here, again, from 1992, you've got 15% growth annually, 10% growth annually. It's slowing to 6%. And now you've got a 7% contraction in just the first quarter. So this is each quarter compared to the same quarter in the previous year. That's how they calculate this. Now, Dan just reminded me that China is because of their booming economy over the past 40 years, they've been buying a lot of resources. When they create homes, they had this incredible real estate boom. We went there and we filmed in some of their ghost cities and stuff. And it was just an amazing sight to see that the government would nationalize a whole bunch of land, just bulldoze it and build a brand new city with nobody in it. And eventually they would become occupied over like the following 10 years, but they kept on doing this and doing it. So there's always ghost cities in China. And one day something was going to happen and those cities are not going to get occupied. And guess what? Something did happen. But while they were doing that, they were buying all of these resources like copper for wiring and plumbing and timber and cement and iron to make steel for cars and so on, because they were, the Chinese, the number of automobiles, the growth is just amazing. And where most of those resources came from was Australia, was selling them a tremendous amount of resources. Australia's economy is made by digging stuff up and chopping stuff down and shipping it overseas. And I was there in 2013 and I gave a presentation in Sydney and in Melbourne. And I showed the audience this stat, and the stat comes, I can't remember, I don't see the attribution on this chart, but it was from their own, like the University of New South Wales, or from the Australian Reserve Bank, the Reserve Bank of Australia, or it's their own data set, is what I'm saying. And the growth in this century from 5% at the beginning of the century to 30% in 2013, and this probably continued to grow, it's probably 40%. And I told them back in 2013, when China sneezes, you're going to be the one to catch the cold. And right now, They had the one of the world's greatest real estate bubbles just a couple of months ago, and that's popping right now because a whole bunch of this national income is going away. So it's this, they're getting this enormous effect that's like double, triple. I will cover that in a special report video. I want to welcome the 886 new subscribers, and just remember, hit the notification bell, and we'd really appreciate it if you give us a thumbs up. If you get things from these videos, that really does help us, that thumbs up ratio. Chart of the day, and this is several charts. The FAANGS stocks, and this is supposed to have another A in there. It's Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, are hitting record highs. This is insane. This is insane. The economy is like going into this deflationary collapse, and these stocks are hitting record highs. And then when you look at the S&P, the 5 largest companies in the S&P, this is their percentage of the S&P's market cap. So the value of the S&P is most of the value of the stock market. It's like 95% of the value of the entire stock market is the S&P 500. And the top 5 companies are now at like 21.4% of, so just these, and another change, the peak before was in the year 2000 with the blow off top of the tech bubble, the NASDAQ bubble. And then the 5 top companies were a mixture of the virtual economy and the real economy. You have Microsoft, Cisco, and Intel representing the internet or the virtual economy, and GE, which is manufacturing, and Walmart, which is retail, representing the real economy, manufacturing and retail, the stuff that we buy to stay alive. These were the things that this was running the financial system and a lot of business and so on, but it's all virtual. It's on the internet. And now all of the companies here are 100% virtual. Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, this is Google, Alphabet is Google, and Facebook. So it's part of the FAANG stocks, and it's 21%. Now, there's going to be a huge wealth transfer and warping of the economy from all of these bailouts and the Federal Reserve, and when they start buying stocks, they're going to be purchasing stocks through ETFs, which means 21% of all the currency that the Fed creates to plow into the stock market is going to go to these 5 stocks. Are they a good front run for investing ahead of the Federal Reserve's manipulation? I don't know. I do know that according to history, that one day gold and silver will vastly outperform whatever performance these stocks have. This is much riskier to me than investing in the precious metals and betting on, you're betting against the Federal Reserve and all of this voodoo, hocus pocus manipulation, where, basically they're just doing these magical incantations, and they're casting a bunch of goat bones and chicken entrails and reading a bunch of tea leaves to try and get the economy going one direction or the other. The Port of Los Angeles, this is hugely deflationary. This is, you can see that there's seasonality to it, but this is the number of containers going in and out of the port each month in Los Angeles, the Port of Los Angeles. And I know it's monthly data because each one of these vertical lines, these dotted lines, is a quarter. This drop, this is 900,000 containers in that month there, exceeding 900,000. This is 950,000 containers. That's summer of 2018, or a fall of 2018, summer of 2019. And we've fallen by 50%, 450,000 containers. This, 0.45 million. This is hugely deflationary. And this is only, here's the first quarter. This is January, February, March. When April, May, the next quarter, April will be way down here somewhere. And this is going to continue falling for a little while because there's inventories and stuff that have to be used up. And so viewer feedback. I want to thank Stevenification. How it will work? It's simple. They will counterfeit on one hand, while on the other hand, they ensure depressive conditions so severe that net inflation is near their inflation target. Permanent depression covered over with fiat, some vice grip. They will continue to falsify the stats to hide the poverty they're creating. You know what? I think Stevenification may have hit the nail right on the head. And I want to point out, too, that I think it was there was somebody, I think it was Winston Churchill, said that economists are always saying on one hand and on the other hand, and then he said that John Maynard Keynes had three hands. There was some quote. Dr. Tech, the world today looks like something between V for Vendetta and Atlas Shrugged. Now, if you have not watched V for Vendetta, please watch that movie. I don't normally like movies like this. However, the theme of this movie really hit me close to home, and it is just such a phenomenal film. I own this on DVD, and I've watched it numerous times. I love this film. Atlas Shrugged, I read that when I was 17 years old. Being dyslexic, it took me about 3 months to read that book. And I was up in the woods in Northern California and living all alone while I was helping build my uncle's geodesic dome cabin. And I read that entire book. And then in 2013 or 14, I reread it again. And I was so impressed with one section of it, I filmed that and put it up as one of the videos that's on this channel. And you can click this link up here, and it'll take you to that video, and you can come back and watch this later. But that is the reason. What I'm reading there happens a few hundred pages into the book. And when you'll think that this book is outdated, and why am I reading this? And then you get to that and you go, oh my God, that is the reason to read it. So if you're at home quarantined, then do something with your time that's really constructive. And both of these are constructive with your time. Black Bear Goat Jr. says, anyone can see this is going to a digital currency where they'll just drop a couple of zeros off the bills. Well, if it's digital, they won't have bills. And I used to carry around these joke bills. We've got some Federal Reserve notes that are $1 million bill and $1 trillion bill. And I used to say, these are coming to an ATM near you. Well, they're not. They're going to be digital now, and they're coming to a phone wallet or a card that will be issued by the government, and then the government will be, the Federal Reserve, in conjunction with the government, will be able to track everywhere you go. And like I said, with Brett Johnson's tweet, they will be able to actually restrict where you're going, because you won't be able to fill up with gasoline, or you won't be able to buy certain airline tickets and so on. Depending on who you are and where you come from, they'll be able to control everything. Now, I want to show you that on our video channel, if you go to the homepage, you click the link that looks like this that's underneath any one of the videos, go to the homepage, and then click this spyglass and this search bar appears. Use that search bar and you can search for any topic. If you search for Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or yield curve or anything else, or you can go to these playlists underneath. And there, we've got hundreds and hundreds of videos. So if you want to know something about a specific topic, it's probably right there. The quote of the day. Remember though, get my book. It's free. And if you haven't gotten it yet, I want to tell you, this is not some internet PDF that we came up with as some sales tool. This is the best-selling book on precious metals of this century, and it's still the best-selling book on precious metals on Amazon. And when this came out, it was at every airport bookstore, Barnes & Noble, booksellers, Hudson Books. Everybody carried this book. It's a real book, and we're giving it to you free. Or you can go to Amazon and you can buy it. Either one, your choice. The quote of the day: the means of defense against foreign danger, historically, have become the instruments of tyranny at home. James Madison. And if that doesn't apply to the 9/11 Act, if it doesn't apply to what's going on with coronavirus, I don't know what does. I want to thank you for watching.